Welcome, 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 my friends, to another episode, to a new season of Tony Talks, season 3, episode 1. I'm going to start this one today with an incredible friend of mine. And much like, and by the way, thank you for tuning in. Much like all of the other episodes that I've done before, these are conversations with inspirational leaders, change makers, and really game changers. And the next person I've had the honor of knowing for going on 4 years. He is the consummate professional. He is a trainer. He is a coach. He is a professional speaker and author. And of course, he's also an incredible real estate broker. And it is the one and only Brad Korn, everybody. Brad Korn. That's right. Hold on. Give him a round of applause. Yeah. Let's hear it for Brad. Listen, Brad is so cool that he's actually got a whole cartoon character of himself created before. He's like a superhero in a lot of ways to a lot of people. And if you get to hear his story and know who Brad is, you know that that's quite literally on point, right? Because of all the things that we go through in life, all the challenges that we go through, all the difficulties, and it makes us who we are. It makes us better. It makes us stronger, and it forces us to grow in ways that we didn't expect. In many cases, we didn't even want, right? But it forces us to grow. And today we're going to have a conversation because Brad and I had a conversation yesterday because while we're all professionals, we're all busy doing things, we get caught up in a lot of madness, a lot of projects, and it's hard to keep things organized. So without further ado, let me just be quiet for a moment, introduce the one and only Brad Korn. What's up, brother? Good to see you. Thanks for taking some time with us this morning, or this evening, I should say.
Well, it is definitely a one and only, that's for sure. I'm kind of a rare breed, so but don't read into that it's anything super special. I'm just a good old boy in the Midwest, buddy. And you hang out with me. We've been hanging out every morning for over 3 years, so I'm about as down to earth as most people will come.
Same. And you know what I like about you is you are who you are, right? You're serious, you're professional, you're playful, you're joking, you're a joker, you're funny, and you're authentic. And I know that that's a word that's used. I don't tend not to use that word that often because it's so overused. But you're an authentic soul. I believe that who you are in front is who you are behind, who you are in public is who you are in private. And that's the kind of people that I appreciate. That's exactly who I am. And I try to be each and every day. So tell us a little bit about you, Brad. You don't have to go through your whole journey, but tell us a little bit about, what you do, and then intro us into this conversation that we're going to have today, which, by the way, let me just introduce it. That's right, politically incorrect. This is getting shit done. Right? It's getting shit done. Politically incorrect, but you know what? Sometimes we have to be politically incorrect to really hit home with the message and what we're trying to do. Because at the end of the day, we're all trying to get shit done. We all have so many things going on in our lives, and it's important to really have a plan, have a program. And, this is really about mastering the systems and processes for everyday success, not just in business, whether you want to be more productive at work in your own business or you work for someone else, but just getting organized in your own head and your own mind and your own life, your garage, your house, all of it. So you're a master at that, the master of systems. So again, just tell everybody a little bit of who you are, what you do, what you're up to now, and a bit of your journey to becoming an author. Just introduce yourself to these incredible people that are watching. And by the way, thank you, all of you who are joining us today live, and for everyone who's going to be watching us afterwards.
Yeah, no, Tony, when we were talking yesterday, we were just talking about just stuff. It just seems like there's always stuff to get done. So we tried to come up with about 10, 15 different words. And finally we said shit. And it's like, yeah, that's what it is. But no, I started in real estate back in 1991. So 33 years ago. And I'll just state, I'm sure you have people other than real estate, maybe listening to this podcast, business people in general. This is a conversation for everyone. And I want you to understand that if I say this word realtor or real estate agent, I'm really talking to everybody. Shoe salesman, vacuum cleaner sales. Oh, wait, that's dating me. I'm kind of old. They don't do that stuff anymore, do they? Sell Kirby
Did you sell
vacuum.
Kirby's? Is that what you did?
Yeah. No, but I used to do, yeah, back in grade school, I did door-to-door magazine sales, the fundraiser for the school. I don't even know where the money went, but all I wanted was that slow poke, that caramel thing on a stick that was like this big, because I was just about the same size at the time. And I just wanted to win the grand prize every time I did something. So I have built a competitive nature. Actually was in retail management for a long time, living at the mall, working weekends, holidays, and just wanted to get out of that. So I went into real estate. So I didn't have to work weekends and holidays. Crap. Somebody screwed me up on that plan. But basically, I got into real estate. I had no background, no huge success coming from my family, no golden spoon, if you want to put it that way. I sat at a desk and cold called and cut and pasted my picture out and pasted it on pieces of paper and made photocopies of them to make brochures, and just thinking of all the marketing stuff, which I did go to Mizzou. I'm in Missouri. Well, really Missouri and Kansas, both. When I say Kansas City, most people think Kansas, but I'm on the Missouri side of Kansas City. It's on both sides. Anyway, I went to Mizzou, Mizzou. That's what we do. Tigers kicking butt this year. But so I went for
Kansas City. Kansas City is just on fire everywhere, right? I mean, there's
everywhere. Almost made it to the World Series.
Everything. That's incredible. By the way, just to make you feel a little bit better, I got into real estate in 1990. By the way, I don't know.
No way, you beat me out by a year.
But if it makes you feel any better, it was December of 1990. So
yeah,
do
you remember they didn't even have the internet then? There was no internet.
It was, and then when they first came out with, and by the way, for those who are listening, we promise this isn't going to be all about real estate. There's going to be a lot about organization, about contact management, about reaching, keeping in contact with the people in your life, your customers, your clients, and everything else. So I promise, hang in there, and we're going to get to that. But right now, we're just kind of reminiscing about the old times of real estate. But do you remember the first MLS had dot matrix printers? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I don't know about in Missouri, but in New Jersey, we had twice or three times a week, we had these pastel MLS books that would print it 2 to 3 times a week. But by the time you got it, everything's sold already. And, everybody's fighting for the book. Who's taking the book out of the office? It was fun times.
I created my very own website, created it with HTML code back in 95 when Al Gore created the internet. I think he claimed that.
And you had to write for 3 days just to get it to like the little cursor to move. Yeah, I remember those times.
Yeah, and I won't change it because I'm like going to be in the Smithsonian Institute pretty soon. I mean, it was one of the very first websites, so it's like a good aged bottle of wine or whiskey or whatever. Anyway,
are you still running the same website?
Oh yeah, you look at it, you'll be like, what? Oh yeah, I did not switch it. I'm like embedded, man. I'm Smithsonian. And that's
fantastic.
That's good on the web naturally. Like when you talk about organic, I mean, this was before there was dirt on the internet. That's how organic I am. But yeah, the point I really want to make about even the real estate part of it is in real estate, we're every business aspect. We are the manager, the entrepreneur, the visionary. We are the accountant. We're the checkbook balancer. We're everything. We're the hiring department, HR, advertising, everything. So when I went to college, I was going for marketing and business management. And when I got into real estate, I realized that I'm really like, this is the ultimate small business because it's everything. It's even harder because it's a brick and mortar business without the brick and mortar. So your marketing has to even be better. So there's a lot to gain from every single business owner that's out there. In fact, I coach a lot of small businesses. I've had a business to business network group. I had that meeting today, actually. And that's been running for over 15 years, meeting every single week. And we exchange so much business. It's $100,000 in our personal bank accounts of what we get to keep from all the referrals every single year. So it's a really cool group. And I share all the stuff I learned with everybody from mortgage lending, roofing companies, air conditioning companies, mold remediation. send out cards, all those kind of network businesses, everything. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is getting systems in place that get shit done, especially for small business owners that maybe have a job that they're trying to get out of, and they're trying to bring their baby alive in their business, and it's getting that thing going, because that's what we had to do in real estate. I mean, I had to get it going. It wasn't even a baby. It was my job, but I got paid commission, which means I didn't make any money for the first year.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I remember first 2 years were tough, man. I remember my first year in real estate. Granted, this was in 90. Technically, my first full year in real estate was 91. I think I made something like $12,000 or something, right?
$10,000 my first year in real estate. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the following year, I think was 17,000, and then
Yeah.
obviously it went up from there. I did start part-time for the first 2, 3 years because I had just moved out. You know, I'm a kid, right? I just moved out. I started at 18, by the way. Well, you probably started shortly around that time as well. And you know, you having to pay rent and having to pay bills and everything else. I needed to hold down a full-time job until I finally got into real estate full-time at 22, I think, and then opened up my first real estate company at 25, and kind of went on from there. But it's not about me, it's about you. And again, whether you're in real estate or another business, we're going to be talking about, like I said, about systems. And even if you've got your organized at home, one of the things that's important to recognize is sometimes we're organized at home, at work, but we're not organized at home, or vice versa. So the systems that we're going to be discussing today, it's going to be about helping you get organized everywhere, right? Putting those systems in places, and those reminders and the automatic updates and all of those things that are going to help you kind of do it, and how to take it in chunks and how to do it. So we're going to try to keep this to about 45 minutes or so. We already went in about 15. So I guess we'll run till about 7 o'clock. Or about 45 minutes. So let's make this happen. So tell us a little bit about, you know, how you created the systems. And by the way, you went on to write a book. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and how your systems and your follow-up and your questions led you to that. And I got to figure out, by the way, how to not have this mirrored, because right now the screen is mirrored. So you really have to, that's the real estate myth. The E-Myth real estate agent, by the way, because I'm reading it backwards, why most real estate businesses don't work and what to do about it.
You got it.
And
I wrote that with Michael Gerber, who wrote the E-Myth, which is
Korn, exactly.
Why small businesses don't work and what to do about it. And that was probably the smartest thing I did. I realized I was a small business first. So that's why when you read that book, E-Myth Revisited is for small business owners. And I would say that's a good book to read first, or pull back off your shelf and read again. But then you read the E-Myth Real Estate Agent. And if you just take the word real estate out, 70-75% of that book will relate to any business if you just plug your profession or your job or your dream or whatever it is in there, because it's just the E-Myth Revisited. It's the it's the real estate version of it, but it's running a small business. So yeah, where it came in for me was not until I read that book did I really understand systems. And as technology progressed and databases progressed, the database actually provided the best system. And I here's the thing I'm going to tell you. This is so simple. It's the concept you need to get. It's not what database should I use, what exact system should I set up. If you understand the concept of how it works, you're going to be able to use it in whatever you're using. So one thing I've learned is nobody's going to use one database at the end of Earth. There won't be one database that has everybody using it. So the stuff I'm going to share with you is not like you have to buy my database to use my systems. I also learned, because I'm a professional business coach too, I've been certified, nationally certified, went through coaching training. When somebody asked me to start helping them and coach them, I was like, well, I need to know what that is. I'm not just a real estate agent that can just talk about how good I am. That's not going to help anybody. So I've gone through coaching training to understand things. And what I have understood, not one person that I know of that I gave my system to ever used it, because it was my system, not theirs. They didn't own it. They didn't create it. They didn't grow into it. So you're actually, through the book, you'll get the ideas. It doesn't seem specific enough for some people, but it's really as specific as it needs to be. And then you go find the people and ask questions, like me. You can find me anywhere on the web, just Korn, Korn, Kansas City. Yeah, right. But it's about campaigns and action plans and reminder systems is where my the real core of my systems, Tony. And it's part of that is figuring out what my perfect experience is for my client, my perfect experience for the people that work with me, my perfect experience for my business partners, whatever that might be. It's one of those things where when you work with me, I want to be the easiest deal you've ever done. I want everything to run smooth, that we eliminate a lot of the headaches and frustrations and all that stuff. So my systems are like, for example, when I meet a client, a future client, there's a follow-up plan, a campaign or action plan that
By the
will have.
way, who's
Yeah.
who's your future client?
Well, I'm speaking to all businesses, so it could be anybody who would need your
Everyone,
product,
right?
service. Yeah, everyone. It's
Everyone.
absolutely everyone. I went to my network group today, right? If I was at a network group and I connected with 5, 6 people at that network group, they go on to a campaign and drip plan to stay in touch with them for the next. Well, it's actually my initial follow-up plan is 8 times in 8 weeks, they get something from me. And
I was
after
gonna say,
that,
not everybody's in real estate and does a CRM, so explain what that drip plan is.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you started to with
Well,
the eight hits, but touches rather.
yeah, a drip plan is in any business. It doesn't matter. You're sending out an email drip plan or you're sending out a video drip plan. What I did was I mixed up the mediums and spread everything out. So if you have a 12 emails that go out one a month about your business, I only use about 3 emails, and then I use 3 text messages, and I use 2 phone calls, and then I use 2 social media touches, and I do those same 12 things. And my systems in the database form, and I'm going to come back to how to create them here in just a second, because that's what most people need to do is create them. And it's the hardest part too. It is, most people never get past the creation part. But the cool thing about systems is that you're going to hear in 1 second is how once it's created, I'm just turning on every day. I'm not really having to do all that hard work anymore. I do it one time on the front end. So if I went to a network meeting today and I connected with 6 people, they come up, we shook hands, we had a good conversation, I will put them in my database and I will start the connection plan. It's the top of mind awareness plan. The top of mind awareness plan, when I put them in my database under the campaigns or action plans or whatever, there's these, it's actually 9 touches, 9 things that are going to happen over the next 8 weeks. And when I hit start that plan, because I just met somebody today and I just want to be top of mind now, while they just met me, I want them to think about me. When I hit start the top of mind plan, those 8 things, well, it's actually 9 things that dump in to their name, and it attaches the dates to them of when I'm doing my next thing. So here's what it looks like. So if I met you today, Tony, I would start that. I'd get you in my database. That's the key. I got to capture and get people in my database every single day. Every single day. Every business should be feeding it people in their database every day. Not an autofill from a website. I'm talking about people that you connect with, right? So the first thing it says is, did you send Tony a handwritten note? And that happens on day 0. So today's date shows up right there, and that will show up on my dashboard of my database and say, hey, you have an item sitting here that you're supposed to do today. And it is to send Tony a handwritten note. And all I do is I send Tony a handwritten note. I literally have them sitting everywhere. Like they're blank inside. They just generic notes. And it's just going to say, Tony, so great meeting you. Loved your energy. Love your laugh. Look forward to keeping in touch, Brad. That's my note. And I dropped that in the mail, which means that while we were talking, I was already consciously aware that I'm putting Tony in my database today because I want to write that note and start the plan. Because the more people I do that with every day, the easier your business is going to get, the more automated your business is going to get. I'll tell you this, the more predictable your business will get. In real estate, I've been selling 100 homes a year for over 20 consecutive years. The only time I've done less than that, once I started doing 100 sales a year, was when I turned it over to somebody and they didn't run my database and they didn't run the systems and they just let it sit there and churn and dump out and they didn't do anything. I've recovered that, and it's taken me about 5 years, and it went from 70 to 60 to 50 on its way to 30. And now I've ramped it back up to 50 and 60 and just back up to 10 closings a month the last 3 months in a row. So I've been putting the systems back on track. And that was hard. So you never want to let your database go once you start it. So I put Tony in. It says, did you send Tony a note? Now what's going to happen tomorrow is let's just say I go to another network meeting, right? And I meet another person. Now they're going to go in and I just say, start the top of mind plan. Boom. Did you send that person a note? Tony's gone. I've kind of forgotten about Tony for a minute, but Tony's going to be getting in the mail in a couple of days, my note. Now he's going to go, whew, that's pretty awesome. That feels good. Who writes notes anymore, right? And actually, Tony did get a note and he did exactly that reaction, right, Tony?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it just feels good. I don't care if you know it's coming. It feels good, right? And I remember you saying, hey, even though that note got returned because I got the wrong address, got his right address, resent him the same note. So he got it a week and a half old. And he said, but it still felt good to get it because I needed to hear that message, right? And it was just that he was awesome. It was great meeting you, whatever. So the next thing is going to happen with Tony is that campaign in 7 days from now is going to pop up and say, hey, drop this email just to say, hey, I was just thinking of you again today. It was really great connecting. Look forward to keeping in touch. That email is going to go out automatically. So again, now it's a week after I've met Tony. I don't even think of Tony in 7 days because the email goes out automatically. 7 days later, it's going to pop up on my thing and it's going to say, hey, go find Tony on social media. All I do is go to Google and type in Tony Rodriguez. I find a whole bunch of them. I dig around. I find him on either Instagram or Facebook or whatever. And I send him a message going, hey, dude, what's up? Just thinking of you. Hope all is going good. Let's keep in touch, and he's going to respond or not respond. It doesn't matter. 7 more days will go along and it pops up and it says, hey, it's been 21 days, call Tony, or 28 days, call Tony. So then I'll pick up the phone and I'll call him. What's up, man? And most of the time I get his voicemail. But at this point, even if I get the voicemail, when I leave this message, he's going to save me in his phone now because he's gotten the note, gotten the email, personal message, social media message. Now he's going to save me in his phone. So now I'm going to mail something again. 7 days later, I'm going to do a text message 7 days later, and then I'm going to call him again on the 8th week. The 8th week, he answers his phone a lot more. And we're not talking for very long because we've got all this communication and we've been whatever. It's just a quick chat. What's going on? Oh, yeah, I've been meaning to call you, blah, blah, or whatever. We just chat for a second, and then boom, that plan ends. So when I said there were 9 things, this campaign's so automated that I do not think about Tony every single day. The only days I really think about Tony, actually, I think about Tony about 4 times more than I would if I just kept doing my life the way you're doing it right now. I'm going to think about Tony 4 more times because the system's going to tell me to think about Tony. And it's going to tell me to pick up the phone. It's going to tell me to find him on social media. Every time I do that, I see his picture on social media. I see things that he's doing. He's going into my brain. It's capturing things versus if I met him originally at a network meeting, we shook hands, exchanged business cards, and I don't see him again for another year or 2. And we bump into each other at a conference. It's like, dude, you were so cool that day we met. How did we not keep in touch? That's what normally happens, right? So at the end of the 8 weeks, there's a 9th item that says start the next follow-up plan. Now, I don't have to send him something every week from now on. Okay, I'm already top of mind. He feels good from the note. He's gotten a phone call. He's heard my voice. I've triggered the senses, right? He's seen me. He's heard me. He's well, you haven't tasted me yet. I haven't figured that one out yet.
Listen, thank you for the offer, but I'm good.
Yeah, you feel it. You
I'll
feel
go down
me.
to visit you. We'll go for barbecue.
Yeah, exactly. And I am figuring out how do I do that, right? So yeah, send you barbecue sauce, right? So it'll say start the next plan. Now I can spread that out. And most people would just do something once a month, but I actually do. It's just a study that was done by a mutual friend of ours, Don Hobbs, did this study back way back, and they tailored that down to 33 touches in a year. What's different about this than what when you hear that, you're like, what? 33 touches a year? First of all, I'm not putting strangers on it. I'm only putting a few people on this a day, the people that I really connected with, that I can write a note, that I can, it's actually moving from the limbic part of the brain. And this is getting a little more advanced than we'll get today. But the limbic part of the brain is those sales calls that you get. Your limbic part of the brain is the one like, do I hang up? Should I just hang up? I don't have time for this. Send me an email. That's your limbic part of the brain talking, because you have no clue who this person is. When Tony gets anything from me after the handwritten note and the phone calls and everything else, I'm past the limbic part of the brain, so he can actually process stuff and go, I like this guy. You know, I could be a total jerk, and I've got best friends all over the planet because of this system, right?
And by the way, and let me just cut in here and say
Yeah.
that we all meet people, especially if you're in business, whether you're in the car business, you're in mortgages, you're in real estate, you're in the floral business, you're investment real in the investment side, you're whatever, but you're a plumber, you're an HVAC guy, you're a builder, you're a landscaper, you're a tree guy, whatever business you're in, you meet new people every day. And how often do we have? And if I'm not in my office right now, I'm in my sunroom. But if I took you to my office, I have a box of business cards that I just throw the business cards in. You know, and I've gotten a little better. Well, lately I've been bad because my assistant actually moved to Florida, so I used to just give her this box of cards once a month, and she'd scan them in and put them into the system. But we meet people on a regular basis every day. So when you meet somebody, rather than 6 months from now sending them a note, they don't know who the heck you are. What do? You put them in your system right away. And that day, the next day, or within the next 2 or 3 days, you're sending them a message because you're still top of mind, right? And that's how you're putting them in a little bit at a time. And by the way, not everybody's cool enough to have a caricature of themselves in their office, but
Well,
Brad is.
Tony, I'm going to take it one level further. Churches, charities, all that stuff. Those are people. You need people to donate to your cause when you're doing a charity. A church, if they would apply this method and actually connect with their congregation, is just I mean, yeah, I actually just went through a network training thing, and I was watching the video, and it's like, no matter what, if you're getting out of college, the more connections you make at college are going to lead to the connection that gets you the killer job, right? So that you don't end up working at McDonald's or Donald's or whatever it is. So that it is about networking every single day. And the 33 touch, whenever I say this, they're like, oh, I couldn't do that. Remember, I did the 8 top of mind stuff first, and I'm only putting a few people on this today, a day. I might have somebody getting a monthly something from me, or advertising my specials, or have my billboards around town, whatever. When those messages, which are probably a 1%, less than a 1% return, but when they call in and then I add this to that, I amplify the results that I'm gonna get from them versus just a call in a lead that then I forget about and gets old, and then I buy another lead and cold. And so, and leads doesn't mean just business. It could be a college student looking for a job. Man, I'm going to stop right here. Just give a pause. This is what I told all my girls. Every interview they went to after college, I said, hey, send them a handwritten note, right? Because they don't even have business cards yet. And they'd be like, I don't have a business card or anything. No, you don't want one. The note should be no I, me, or my. It's about them, right? If I were a college student, I'm sitting for a job and I'm doing an interview. Thank you, so-and-so. It was great to meet you and learn about your company. Very exciting to see what the growth and everything that's happened and what's coming in the future. Thank you for the time, Elizabeth. My daughter would write notes to these business people that she was going on interviews with. And then I would send them 8 things in 8 weeks so that you're top of mind. That otherwise your application is just buried in a file somewhere, right? So anyway, it works in everything.
And by the way, Julie Julie just said, I don't know if it was Julie or Bryce, but they just said make sure you find your new contacts on the social media channels. Not only comment, but follow and like. That's a new way of doing that as well. Because if you see somebody, you're mailing them something, then you're commenting on their social media posts. They're like, wow, this guy really cares about who the heck I am, and is involved. And I think that is a great thing. And something you said earlier on, and this is something that I often say to people when somebody says, hey, can I pick your brain? First of all, stop saying that, because that sounds so unpleasant. I want to pick your brain. Anybody want to have their brain picked? Not really, but it says, hey, listen, I'd love to get together for a cup of coffee with you or something like that. But before you do that, and if you don't know Brad, just make sure that you go on his social media posts. You see his haunted house video. I'm like, dude, Brad, that looks amazing. And you're like, who is that guy? Oh, that guy, Tony. All right. And then, and then I comment on something another time, like, oh, that guy, Tony's following me. Oh, wait, this guy just sent me something in, thank you letter from the time that I met him, or, hey, listen, I really enjoyed your social media posts or whatever it is. That way, when I reach out, hey, Brad, I have a question. Do you have 2 minutes to, you're like, oh yeah, this is the guy that's been commenting on my stuff. Yeah, of course I got 2 minutes. Same way, in a way, what you're doing, you're sending mail out to people. So when you do call somebody, I'm like, oh, Brad, oh, this is the guy that's been sending me all this cool stuff that I met, at that event 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, because you sent them a message. Because how many people actually send a message? And how many people, this is super impressed by you, by the way, Brad, with this, how many people actually send a handwritten note? What? Right? That's amazing. And that's a huge leg up on your competition.
Yeah. So even if you don't have the database figured out and the campaigns and action plans, you can double or triple the results of everything you're focused on and wanting to do, and double and triple your connections with those 8 touches. And I'm going to challenge you, just make a list out and start the first one with note and throw 2 phone calls spread out in there. And then just mix up the other touches, and don't use social media more than twice. Don't use email more than twice. Don't use any media more than twice. Even with the 33 touch, if I put 33 lines on a piece of paper, I'm just going to divide it by however many touches. So you got mail, phone call, email, text, and social media would be like 5 of them, right? Divide that by 33 and then just go mail, 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 mail. On the next one, do text, 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 text. On the next one, do email, 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 right? As long as you're mixing up the mediums, they're never going to get more than 1 email every 2 or 3 months, like probably every 2 months or so.
Because what winds up happening, and sorry to interject, but what winds up happening, and it happens with me, I start to unsubscribe. There's a couple of people that I'm receiving mail from all the time anyway that I haven't unsubscribed yet, just because they're friends of mine. But I unsubscribe. If I don't know you, I'm unsubscribing. I don't want to be on a list that I don't want to be on. So,
right.
So to your point, if you get different medium, you're like, oh yeah, got that letter from him, got that email, got that postcard, got the social media post, got that email. Let's see what Brad's got to say. Brilliant.
Well, and go back to the handwritten note. Connection first, handwritten note, some phone calls, I'm in. I'm past the limbic part of your brain. You're actually not just going to delete me in a chunk of stuff. Now, you might skip over, you might like delete your chunks, but you undo mine and you delete, and I'm still in there because you want to check it out later. You're too busy right now.
By the way, I will say that's it's great that you said that, because I got your letter. I got a letter in the mail from you 3 days ago. I didn't throw it out. I haven't opened it yet, but it's on my desk. But it didn't go to the can, because I'm going to open it. I'm going to read it because I want to see what you've got to say. And yes, because we're friends.
Guess what, guys? I don't care. I can already tell you they're not going to read your letter. So do not spend a lot of time figuring out what this letter needs to say. It's that he knows I sent him something. It's like, man, it doesn't even have to be. Here's another thing. I hear these tricks all the time. You understand that I do not need to send Tony a hand addressed envelope to try and trick him to open it up to make him think a friend sent him a letter. A friend already sent him a letter, and it's a freaking printed label, and he knows it came from me, and he doesn't even know what it is. It doesn't matter. That's not the purpose. The content that I'm sending doesn't matter. It says, Brad, 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 right?
Top of
And
mind. And by the way, this has nothing to do with real estate. If you're an HVAC, if you're an HVAC guy, you're a plumber, you're a framer, you're a mason, you're a gardener, you're a roofer, a sider, a window guy. And I say these things because obviously being in real estate, that's the first thing that comes to mind. But you're a finance guy, you're an investment broker, you're a banker, you're a mechanic, you're whatever you can think of, whatever business you're in, you're dealing with people at any given point. Even if you don't have direct contact with that final customer, you have contact with the purchasing agents or the owners of other companies or other people that are in your industry or aligned in your industry. That's what we're talking about, because you're obviously going to industry conferences, you're going to meetups, you're going to networking events, network groups, attorneys, and all of that, accountants. I'm just thinking of different professions, but you're going to run into these people. These are the people that you want to get into your database, because regardless of the business that you're in, because everybody knows somebody, as you said, and that was brilliant. What you said in the beginning, the business group that you've been running for 15 years, you guys each make $100,000 out of that group alone, just by meeting once a week for an hour.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm going to bring this together before we close out with a very simple action plan for you to get started on this. Obviously, in our amount of time here, I can't give you the whole system or help you understand it completely, but I can at least give you the step to start focus on. Because a lot of people say, well, where do I find 3 people a day or 5 people a day? You already gave the answer, Tony. You will find in, like, just say for Facebook or any social media, everybody following you or everybody you're following should get a connection call from you, or go knock on their door if they're local, or at some point I need to cross paths with them and have more than a conversation of just a quick thing in a chat box, right? It's a two-way conversation where we actually connect, and it can happen in a chat box, but in that chat box, remember, the first thing's a handwritten note. So my brain is just trained that if I meet you on a webinar somewhere, I'm looking to figure out where you are. We were on a call earlier today and somebody said the city they lived in. I was already Googling their name in that city and found their address, right? Fastpeoplesearch.com is a fun one. Fastpeoplesearch.com is what I use a lot. It will.
It's free or paid?
What's that?
Is that free or paid?
Free. I don't do anything paid because it's all about 70% accurate. So the free ones are just as accurate as the paid ones. And remember, worst case scenario, you've really connected with them. So if you can't find the address, part of your phone call could be, hey, where do you go into the office? Where do you live? Yeah. Oh, I'm on the east side of town. And you can find people online. Just Google it. You'll find a phone number. You can do a reverse search with that too. But it is the feeding it every day is your Facebook friends list. It's your cell phone contacts list. Every number you've dialed out, every number that's come in, put those in a notebook. Like, get every list you have, every connection, your emails that you've received. Go through your inbox. Go through your sent folder. I probably wouldn't go through your deleted folder because you're never going to get to everybody anyway, but you're going to write hundreds and hundreds of names in this notebook. And that's all you're doing is going through Facebook, my cell phone, all this stuff, which now I'm even at the level, what you said earlier is I'm looking at a funny post that I put and it'll get 30 comments on it. Guys, I do this every single day. And there's 25 people that aren't even in my database yet that commented on my Facebook page. And I do this every single day. I'm adding people every day. The planet is too big and we are crossing paths with more people than we'll ever personally touch. So I'm going to say this, keep doing what you're doing to get whatever business you're getting, but start taking off a couple little pieces and do this. And move. The goal is to move as many people as you can into this, but you don't have to put everybody on it today. You can't send 100 handwritten notes, like take the whole day and I'm going to write those notes. That sounds good, because you can't make 100 calls in one day.
Well, your goal is to put in, and sorry to interrupt, because I do want to get to like the other part of getting shit done and getting organized and how you do it in chunks and everything else. So just because I know this is how, well, at least I believe this is how you've told me you do it. Your goal is to add 5 people a day into the database. And the database, by the way, kind of does it automatically. You're kind of on automatic now once you
Yeah,
set it
when
up.
that campaign starts, it only starts on those 5 people today. The 5 people tomorrow will start tomorrow.
Right.
The next 5 people 3 days from now
And you
starts
make
3 days from now.
and you make 5 phone calls a day. And the one thing
Well,
I want to remind everyone,
yep.
yeah, the one
No,
thing
I
I
was
want
just going to say what it does is it spreads those calls out to where I'm not making 25 calls a week. I'm making 5 calls a day, and it's everybody spread out. When you understand that, that's how we're going to get to the next part that we're going to close out with, Tony.
Yeah. And just the one thing that I would encourage is to make sure that you don't forget your friends, your family, your neighbors, because we often forget about those. And then we get pissed off when they're doing business with somebody else. If you're a roofer, your neighbor did a roof with someone else. What the hell? I'm your neighbor. Well, when's the last time you actually connected with them? When's the last time you talked to them? When's the last time you sent them a piece of literature? Don't take for granted the people that are in your sphere. So that's the one thing that I would say. And again, make it a point to reach out to 5 people a day at least.
Yeah. Well, and I'll add to that, Tony. So you can break up those touches, the 33 touches or however many. It doesn't even matter if it's 28, 33, 47, but it doesn't need to be 80, and it needs to be more than 20. That a quarter of them can be about your business, whatever you're doing, because they're not everybody, your family, friends, and all that stuff aren't using your business yet. They don't need your product. They're not donating to your charity yet, right? So a quarter of those messages spread out by 25, 25th, 25th, 20, or not 25th, a quarter is going to be about my business. Now, the other messages in between the next quarter is going to be about local stuff. The next quarter could be 4 things a year, just a personal note from you on what's going on in your life. And then a quarter of them could be just funny stuff or whatever, so
some of them might just be, some of them just as a suggestion might be, if you're a roofer, hey, it's time to check out your gutters. If you're an HVAC guy, hey, it's time to change your filters every 3 months. If you're, whatever that is, or maybe if you're following on social media, hey, I saw that your son graduated from college last month. It's so exciting. I wish you well, whatever. Or, hey, I saw your son just graduated, or a birthday went by, whatever. It's an important part, and you can use social media that way. And by the way, I want to thank Carla for kind of giving us the little cheat notes here. Thank you, Carla, for that. And we do have a question from Bryce and Julie. Prior to entering the contact into the database, what strategies are you using to meet the contacts you're adding?
Yeah. It's just those people that are already on my list. You got to make the master list or you will just get lost. Imagine if you did. So it's real easy for the first 5. The 5 people you talk to today, you can think of those people right now and you could write them a note. Tomorrow, if you were just aware and you're excited about this, you might capture 3 or 4 more people, right? By day 3, it's starting to fade away and you're starting to because we're looking for business. No, this is every human being you come in contact with. In fact, the message is not about business. Now my logo's on everything after the handwritten note. That's the only note I write. I don't write a whole bunch of handwritten notes. I don't send you 4 handwritten notes a year. That sounds stupid. Why would I write 4 handwritten notes to you a year? They're not going to impact you any differently than a letter that I could send or an email, right? But the first note is what gets me past the limbic part of the brain. So the list, I'm telling you, nobody can do it winging it. You got to get a master list of everybody you know or who knows you into a notebook. And then every day, part of your job is to take half an hour and just look at that name, search for them on your phone, search for them in your email, search for them online at fastpeoplesearch.com. Bryce and Julie are real estate agents. Search on the tax records, see the home address. And your goal every day is to just start filling in some phone numbers and finding addresses, connections for these people. Honestly, I don't care if I even get their email because you can't build a relationship through a blast email. That's the very last thing.
That's how I found Silent Nate and I called him.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
I was going to say, because I want to wrap this side of it up, but Julie and Bryce and everyone else, it's the waiter at the restaurant. It's the owner of the restaurant. It's the owner of the mechanic shop, the mechanic that you're servicing your car with. It's anyone that you come in contact with, you should be giving out business cards for whatever it is that you do, right? Stop being a secret agent in whatever business you're in, whatever business you're in. Let people know what you do so that that can be that point of contact. Find out what they do, because remember, people like to talk about themselves, right? So they'll tell you a little bit of information, and you can put them in the database. And when they get a note from you a couple of days from them, like, holy cow, this guy found me. That's kind of crazy, but good for him.
Yeah.
So let's wrap this up, because I do want to go to
Julie and Bryce do a golf tournament. There's 200 people to 400 people right there that you don't do everything once after the golf tournament. They are your 5 connections every day for the next 4 months. That's 5 people a day, 25 people a week, 100 people a month. So now my list is going to last me 4 months to figure out a way to cross paths with them, connect, so I can write the note, get them in the database. Now,
awesome.
If you understand that campaign and action plan and how it runs, the getting stuff done, and I'll tell you where the core came from in a minute, but like, you create your perfect process. So I have to give an example of real estate. My perfect process is from the time I list a house until it gets a contract. There's all these things that I do, right? Where I put it on realtor.com. I put a sign in the yard. I put a lockbox on. I market it in MLS to the real estate agents. It doesn't matter what your product is, right? But there's a perfect process. What I do is I write down all those things that I'm going to do in the perfect order if I were to do it perfectly. And then I turn it on its side and create a campaign that says, at 0 days, do these 3 things. 1 day later, do these 2 things. 5 days later, do these 6 things. And that's everything that I would do if I were running it perfectly, so I don't forget anything. Then again, what I do is I list a house today. They're already in my database. I start the list to contract plan. I deleted the other 33 touch plan because now they're on this plan, and it starts and it tells me, did the sign get put in the yard? Is the lockbox on the property? A day after they're on the market, did I send them a copy of what their house looks like on the internet? And ask them, hey, what do you think of it? Do you like the pictures? Because when they respond to that, and see, that's all automated. And they're like, oh my gosh, the pictures are amazing. Right now, they love me. I'm the best thing since sliced bread. Until they thought their house was going to get 20 offers on the first day, and we're still on the market in 4 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, right? So all these things are going. In fact, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, it triggers me to say, check in and see where they are. And that's because, and it said there's other stuff going, like all your marketing's in place. Here's how many people have seen your house on the internet. Any product that you're selling, there's a cycle that you go through on your product sales, right? So on selling a car, I might have something a week or 2 later where it's a follow-up to invite them back to test drive the newest model that just showed up. It's like, hey, you came in a couple of weeks ago and test drove that car. We just got the newest model in. Come by and let's take a spin. I know you're not buying right now, but just come in and test it out. It's so cool. Whatever.
And Eric just said, and thanks, Eric, for jumping in. By the way, thanks for the call. If anybody's looking to edit a book or print a book or anything else, Eric is amazing. Had a strategy session with him yesterday. Looking forward to the next one. Didn't book it because it was only next week and I'm traveling. But looking forward to our next call. But he says the next step is to build a policy procedure. So an SOP, right? Standard operating procedure. And the objective for that policy is for each of those steps, so that eventually you're no longer responsible. So you're having an assistant or someone else kind of just pick up the ball if you drop it. And the cool thing, what you said before, and I want to make sure that I say this because it's an important part of maybe what we're going to talk about next, is not only is that checklist, but every day your system messages you, texts you what those things are that you have to do. So you don't have to go back to that list and say, oh, where's my to-do list today? No, you're getting an email or a text message or however you set it up to remind yourself, time to get that done.
Yeah. Right? So my dashboard, I can separate out my calls for the day. I'll pull those aside. It says, here's your letters that are supposed to be printed out, which it's all different kinds of letters. Somebody's getting the week 1, somebody's getting week 52, whatever it might be. So I print those to the printer. It prints the labels with it. I go to my to-do tasks, and I can sort it by, here's my social media touches. So I can just log into Facebook and rip, and just do my touches. And it'll say, send handwritten notes for the people I added yesterday. Shouldn't be more than 5. So I write my handwritten notes if I didn't get them done. Now I've already got to the point where those were done instantly. So I'm just marking those things done tomorrow on day 0. They're on my dashboard. So it just gives me I'm getting my 20%. They talk about 80% generates 20% of your activity. You hear people talk about lead generation time. You got to be lead generating. It's about cultivating those leads. And this encompasses all of that. It's my lead gen time. It's my marketing. It's my top of mind awareness. So that's how I get things done. And most of that stemmed from a book called Getting Things Done. Getting Things Done by David Allen. And where this came from. So I'll tell you, with these systems, when I systematize everything, even if it's stuff I naturally do, somebody says, come list my house today. I don't need a checklist to go fill out the paperwork, put the sign in the yard, put the lockbox on. But if I took 10 listings in one day, I'm going to forget a sign. I'm going to forget a lockbox. I'm going to forget something, right? I'm going to drop the ball on somebody. But when those things are running through an automated system, it works. So a lot of that came from Getting Things Done by David Allen. If you don't have that book or that audio, I think he's got the most genius system I've ever heard. There's a lot in there, but the first one is getting shit done. Let's wrap it up with the title of the call today. There's so much stuff swimming up here in your head that he has what he calls the 4 Ds. And what he has to do, what he has you, challenges you to do is get everything out of here, because it's just getting swirled and mixed up and something goes to the top and you don't even have to be ADHD and you got stuff swimming in your head. He gets everything out of your mind by saying you go through an exercise and you're going to clean. Imagine this. You're going to clean every pile off your desk. You're going to dump everything out of your brain. You're going to get everything out of your mind into a system. His system is do it in 2 minutes or less. You got 4 piles that you're going to create. Do it in 2 minutes or less. Delegate it means it's somebody you could give it to. So if you don't have anybody to give this thing to, and you can't do it in 2 minutes or less, then it's a delay. I'm going to delay. It's going in the delay pile because I'm not doing it right now. It's in the delay pile. And anything that doesn't go in those 3 piles, he says, dump it. That dang, he says in the book, he's like, that calculator, complicated calculator manual that's sitting on your desk that you've never looked at since you brought the calculator 10 years ago and it's still sitting on your desk, it goes in the trash, right? All right, so you dump it. The 2 minutes or less thing, when I went through that, so what he does is he'll give you words. He'll say garage. Right now, if I said garage, every single person listening right now, grab a piece of paper and start writing down everything that's coming to mind. Screwdrivers laying around, clean the trash off my workstation, put the boxes in the trash, move this around, take that to storage, dump that thing. All these things start coming up, right? And if I say master bedroom closet, oh my God, I got to get rid of the old winter clothes or bring out the winter clothes, right? Where we are right now, or get rid of all the small shirts that I can't wear anymore because I'm now in XX, whatever. So it's just, you can just go on and on and on through the house. The outside of the house. Oh my God, just start writing everything down. Once you get these lists done and you've gotten everything from every word you can think of, your office desk. Oh, I got to get those business cards put in my database. I've got to, do this, go through that pile, get that out of here, file this away, whatever it might be. You can just go on and on and on. Once you've done that, he says, take those lists and put every item on its own piece of paper. This is how I created the perfect system too. So put every item on its own piece of paper. And then you'll have a pile like this and you go look at it and go, can I do it in 2 minutes or less? You don't put it in the 2 minutes or less pile. You just do it. Respond to that damn email that's been sitting there that you need to respond to. If it's something you can delegate, put it in that pile. If it's something you can delay, put it in that pile. Your delay pile is going to be kind of big, right? And then you're dumping the rest. How many times you go on vacation and you're running through, cleaning off your desk, getting through everything, and you throw 40% of it in the trash? I mean, it's just, I don't even know why it's sitting there, right? So that worked really good. So what I did on that is I wrote down for every day for 2 weeks, I wrote down everything I was doing. So if a listing came up for me to sell a house, I would write down everything that I was doing. And even the stuff that I just do automatically, I wrote it down. I put everything on its own piece of paper, and then I put them up on the wall on sticky notes in the order, the perfect order. And then that perfect order, I would say, this I would want to happen at least within the first 5 days. This can happen at least by the 7th day. This can happen on day 14. That's how I came up with that. Then I go back through the notes again. When you have other people that you could delegate things to, I write the name on the note of who's responsible for that item. Now I can take that and turn it into a system and assign it to the people. And if I add more people that some of those things go to, we're going to relook at that plan and add names in front of things. And it's just less that I have to do. Right. So that's how the getting shit done gets done, is get it out of your head and get it on in these 4 boxes. And what you'll probably do at least by the end of this year is get more than half of that do it in 2 minutes or less stuff done. The other piles won't move. My other piles didn't move for a year. In fact, most of the stuff in my delay pile ended up going in the dump it pile by the time I got back through them, because I just didn't do it. I'm way past that thing that I thought I wanted to do. Now I don't want to do it anymore. So that's how you get stuff done. The getting things done with David Allen. He has a lot of different systems in there, getting your inbox to 0. So when all this stuff's coming at us all the time, he would say, put things in buckets. And most of them were simple, like at phone, at computer, at errands, at waiting for. So how many times do you give something to somebody and somewhere in the middle of the day, you're like, oh, crud, I got to call my assistant and figure out where that is or whatever. If I'm waiting for something, it's almost the best way I can picture it is the old Outlook email. I would just put waiting for answer if an appraisal came in, and I put it in the waiting for folder. Now it's out of my head and it's in the waiting for folder, right? So in the middle of the day, when the dust settles for about 2 seconds, I'm like, what am I waiting for today? Just go to the waiting for folder, and I'm skimming through going, ooh, that appraisal, I'm waiting for that. Hey, what's going on with the appraisal? Delete, now it's out. But it wasn't in my head. It wasn't swirling around with everything else, mixing it up. I got an appointment that I'm going to 45 minutes from here. I go to the at errands folder and I look, and I've got to get milk. My wife said, hey, make sure you get milk today. And then I've got my dry cleaning still sitting there. Well, I look at where I'm going and it's like, oh, I'm passing the grocery store and the dry cleaner. So I looked at my errands folder because I'm getting ready to leave the house or even run an errand. And I'm grabbing 3 or 4 of those things in the at errands folder that are all right on the way. Dude, I just live my life like that. It's like if I go out, I'm like knocking out 3 or 4 things right there on the same highway. And that's why my wife even now today will be like, hey, will you go get me a Starbucks tea? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll go out. She'll go, now, are you going to Walmart? Are you going to anywhere else? And I was like, well, I was going to. She's like, and that's when I'm smart enough now. I'll just go get your tea and bring it back.
You know, because she knows it'll be a half hour, an hour before you get it. So,
yeah,
exactly. So I think one of the things that's important that you just said there, and I think it's absolutely one of the things that's super important is taking action, right? Is just take action. Sometimes we're that analysis of paralysis, even starting the systems, even doing the delegation, whatever it is, going through that pile, making that list of those 4 boxes or 4 buckets for you to do things. You know, I've heard it done slightly differently at times as well. It's either you're going to do it, you're going to delay it, as you said, you're going to delegate it, or you're going to dump it, because there's a lot of stuff that you're like, I should do this, I should do that. Well, stop shitting all over yourself and just don't do that. The thing that we often do is we overcommit. And so we wind up doing so much stuff that doesn't matter. And the things that do matter don't get done. And, you know, what Eric said here is, you know, and it's a question, I guess, for all of us to answer for ourselves. What's the 20% of the activities that can create 80% of your revenue? If it's the right 20%, that's what actually happens. 80% of what you do don't go to your revenue pile. Cleaning your garage isn't going to go to your revenue pile. I mean, it'll get you some brownie points at home, so that's kind of important to remember. But it's not. It's more important to take care of. Obviously, you got to take care of home and everything else. But it's about revenue. What are the actions that you're doing today that's going? What is the 20% of the actions you can do that are going to get you that revenue? Because the 20% is going to get you 80%. That other 80% might get you 20%, but you're after the 80%. So you again, what did you say? You're going to do it in 2 minutes or less. You're going to delay it, or you're going to
delegate it.
delegate it or dump it. Same
Dump it.
thing, kind of the same thing that we're talking about. So it's important to delegate. And it's important. And when you have the opportunity to do it, you should absolutely work on getting yourself an assistant, or work on getting yourself an intern, or somebody that you're going to maybe coach in your business, or, something like that. Somebody that you're going to be able to help. It's going to help you on that journey. Because if you're making enough, you're putting the 20% in the right place, and you're doing that often enough, you'll have enough revenue to go ahead and hire someone that's going to help you do some of those things. So,
and this is a sample of what the swimming in your head and getting your mind like water, like a clear lake with no ripples in it. I'm not going to forget about it. It's all right there. But what happens is I'm at a network meeting or I'm on a call and somebody's got an assistant, a virtual assistant, right? That's like $3 an hour and you get this special or whatever. Well, right then it's like, ooh, I can go to my delegate pile and just like look through some of those things and go, okay, I could knock out, 20% of this if I get that virtual assistant. And now I've got them doing things immediately. They're into production versus you just hire somebody because it sounded cool and you got a whole bunch of stuff to do and you're supposed to do it. And then you're spending more time trying to figure out what to give them to do because it's all swimming around in your head. And that's what
I've been guilty of that too.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, again, from the Davis team, it's more of a realistic question. Once the systems are up and running, what are you doing to report on the metrics? What kind of reporting? What are the metrics on how the systems are performing? I'm going to say that's a Bryce asking that question.
Yeah, exactly. I love you, Bryce. Just do 5 people, write 5 notes, enjoy the ride. You'll figure that out later. You don't even need to know it right now. Once your business doubles or triples, you'll have everything systematized enough that you can track your metric for whatever you need to track, however you want to track it. But when you're trying to track it on the front end, you can't. The metric is it's going to double or triple your business just getting people in, connecting, writing the note. And if you screw the rest of the system up, you will double or triple your business. Now, to do that and not get derailed, I got to write every name in a notebook and find as many addresses and phone numbers so that every single day it's like, I'm not leaving today without 5. And the question always is, where am I going to get 5 30 days from now or 60 days from now? You open up your notebook of 1,000 names and you got 100 addresses sitting there. That's the people I'm going to call today. That is now my lead generation time or lead cultivation time because they're already in the notebook because they know me or we cross paths, but I haven't sent them the note yet. Once I get them, so that 200 people come to a golf tournament, right? They're all 200 names going to the notebook. I'm not going to call 100 people today and 100 people tomorrow. I mean, I can, but that's a short-term, immediate, whatever I need. I'm going to connect with a few people a day. Because if I connected with 100 people a day, you can't. You physically can't. I've done the 100 calls a day where I got 100 two-way conversations in one day. It was 250 dials and it was 5.5 hours. And I got 2 real listing appointments that I could go meet somebody.
Which is incredible. But how authentic are those calls after you make 100 calls? You're like, oh God, you're muscling through. I get it. I get it, but you're just muscling through. You're like, okay, listen, good talking to you.
Well, Tony, here's the worst thing. The 98 people that I blew through that I did get on the phone, but I got 2 appointments, and out of those 100, I got 98. All 98 of those people are actually buying a product or service that I have, just not today, right? And actually
in contact with people.
Yeah,
so, listen, I want to give everybody just kind of like the cliff notes, which I'm going to go back to Carla's line because it was actually really good. So we're gonna wait. Let me just see where I can. She's in here. Here we go. So connect with people, put people in your handbase, handwritten notes, email, text, social media, 23 touch points per year at least. Leverage technology and systems to connect, organize contacts in a database, and just be consistent. It is great advice. So meet people, put them in your database, create that database, put them on a drip plan, figure that out. And if you want more information, by all means, reach out to Brad. He's got an incredible book, The E-Myth Revisited, and he's got his own systems and plans. I'm going to make sure that I put I'm going to put the link to all of your stuff in the chat, in the comments section here for people to be able to find. It's about executing. It's about creating those 4 buckets. You're going to do it in 2 minutes or less. If you're going to delegate it, if you're going to delay it, if you use a different word, it's going to be put off, save it for later, or you're going to dump it. Epically important. The other thing is Getting Things Done by David Allen. There's the other one called even Getting Shit Done. You can look at that one too. It's not my book or Brad's, but it's a little bit of a twist on it, but it's the same thing. But Getting Things Done is about dumping everything out of your head onto paper so you can see it, and you can actually do that and make those piles. And then, of course,
put it in a system. Yeah.
Put it in a system, and to have the system remind you. So you're getting that text message. That way you don't have to remember to go look at your notes, go look at your calendar, go look at whatever. The calendar is important. I got to be honest with you. Calendar is great, but you know what I have my assistant do? I have her text me like, hey, you got 2 o'clock with so-and-so. Great. She does it an hour before because she knows that sometimes I get so wrapped up in the conversation or in whatever I'm doing that I don't remember to check my calendar for whatever reason. So I am having her do those things, but you can set those up on your own if you have the proper system. So remember, make that pile, and you're going to do it. In 2 minutes, you're going to do it today or tomorrow. Something that has to get done right away, something that you're able to delegate that you don't have to do, but does need to get done on a timely basis. You're going to delay it, something that doesn't need to be done right now, or you're just going to dump it, take it off your desk. It doesn't matter, right? There's a lot of things that are like that. So we got to remember to do that and starting to declutter our lives and declutter our minds. We're declutter our lives so we can declutter our minds, right?
Yeah. So just remember E-Myth, E-M-Y-T-H, E-Myth Real Estate Agent. If you even look for that on Facebook, you'll find the E-Myth Real Estate Agent resource page. If you Google E-Myth Real Estate Agent, you're going to find the book first on like Amazon and all that other stuff. But if you track it down to me on E-Myth Real Estate Agent, there's a site there where you can get the book from me directly versus Amazon, and I'll personalize it. We'll connect, and you'll actually get to experience the stuff we talked about. Because if we connect, you're my guy for the day. You're my guy for the day. So you'll experience it really happening. Tony just said he got a letter 3 days ago. So yeah, it takes time. I mean, it took me a year. I spent 6 months just feeding the database before I even sent notes. I figured I didn't need to worry about all this crap until I'm at least getting people in every day that I'm connecting with, right? And then I added the note, and then I'm like, well, crud, what am I going to send next? What's the next thing I'm going to send? I just kept feeding the database every day, because the people for the 6 months that didn't get a note or didn't get a plan, they just got fed into the database 5 a day. What I was doing was training myself that the 5 a day is what's important, right? Now, once I'm doing that, now it's important to start writing the notes, and I'll get over the hump of falling behind on the notes and all that stuff. Once I get that done, then I'll figure out what the next piece is. And it took me 2 years to figure out this, to get these systems in place. You can do it faster, but you don't have to do it on day one. You don't want to spend the next 6 months creating it and not adding anybody in the database.
Well, the nice thing is, yeah, you created your own, but there's a lot of free resources that you can get. There's stuff that you can purchase, whether if you're in real estate, chances, and if you're with the big brokerage, chances are they have their own contact management system. You can create your own. There's free contact management systems. Which one would you recommend first and foremost?
The one you'll use. In fact, yeah, most people have a business website of some sort, and you have some form on your web page that is, I want more information about your product or service. Most people have that on just about any business page, right? That's where you funnel people in. First of all, you got to put yourself in and see where it goes, so you know where that person's name and number is, so you know how to find it. But just, you could go to your own website every day as a real estate agent before I have my database figured out, and just, I want to buy a home. I'm going to put every buyer I met today in there. I want to sell a home. I'm going to put everybody in there. I want more information as everybody else. And I'm just putting a name, address, phone number out of my notebook into that page, and that's going into my database. See, and again, until I do that, you don't need the rest of the stuff I talked about yet. If you're just capturing them right now, what I know is going to happen is you're going to go crazy in like 3 weeks going, all right, I'm capturing all these people. I'm doing nothing with them. Okay, why don't you send them a note? That'd be too simple. Okay, I'll do that. And then once I'm writing the note for a little while, it's like, okay, now what's happening? I'm not getting any more business. So I'll send the next touch. Okay. And in a year, boom, man, you have 1,000 people in your database that you're going to reconnect with and get back on the plan, but you get to create it all as you're going, not have to have it all in place because you won't use it.
Fantastic. Well, listen, we're already running an hour and 10 minutes, and I want to respect your time. If you guys want to know more about Brad, just put in Brad Korn with a K, and chances are you're going to find this guy. And of course, you can find
Or
us,
him. You might find him.
or the other guy. The other guy seems to be better looking, but that's just my opinion. But listen, you can also join us in the morning. We're still on Clubhouse. Believe it or not, yes, Clubhouse is still a thing. We are on Clubhouse Monday through Friday from 7 to 8:30. And Brad's certainly one of our regular co-hosts, and grateful for you, brother. Thank you for the tips and strategies. Conversation we had yesterday, of course, just you and I, and of course, today's conversation as well. If you enjoyed this podcast or this show, by all means, on social media, whether YouTube or Facebook or any other platforms, just share it with your friends. Share it with somebody that you know can get benefit from it. This is episode 1. Oddly enough, it might be episode 2 because I did one a couple of months ago. But I labeled this an episode 1 because you're my first of the 3rd season.
It said season 3.
It is season 3. But yeah, you can find us. You can go more information on me. You can go to getupandgrow.com, and I will be posting the link for Brad's book in the chat as well. Thank you all for being here, and remember to share this. And we are going to be doing probably minimum 1, maybe 2 of these podcasts per week with different people. I bring in leaders, community leaders in the world, influencers, and of course, change makers. And my friend, you are all of the above. Thank you for how you're showing up in the world. Appreciate you all. Thank you for being here. And until next time, don't forget that we all fall and everybody gets up. Most people just get up and go. But what we need to do is we need to get up and grow, because until you grow through it, you keep going through it. Appreciate you, my friends. Ciao for now.
See y'all. Great questions, everybody.
Yes.